Hi everybody, welcome back to another video. This one I have been meaning to make for a long time, so my apologies that you've had to wait a little while. This is my labour and delivery story, and I will start by saying that I don't unfortunately have any footage because when we got there everything was really rushed, and we did ask if we could set up the camera and film, and it's against hospital policy, so we couldn't get any footage, unfortunately. I will put some pictures in here if there is any that were appropriate. I can't really remember if there were, so if there are, I will put them up. Sorry if you can hear my baby talking. He is just on the floor and happy as Larry, so I'm leaving him there for the time being. So let's get this done really quickly. Please let me know if you have any questions, and yeah. So he was measuring quite big for how far along we were. He was like in the 90th percentile, something like that. So at 40 weeks he would have been 8.5 pounds, which is quite a big baby. And then here in the UK they don't induce you until 40 weeks, 12 days. So if that was the case, excuse me, he would have been, and I've got a really bad pimple here, I apologise for the look of that, he would have been 9.5 pounds. So I thought, that's ridiculous, I don't need to wait that long. So I saw a consultant, asked if she could book in an earlier induction. He's giggling. And she said that's fine. So while I was there and I saw her, that was just before I was 39 weeks, she gave me a stretch and sweep, which they don't normally do until you're 40 weeks, but because he was measuring fine, she was happy to do that. So stretch and sweep works within 48 hours. If it doesn't, then it hasn't worked. So it didn't, and when she would have booked me in for the induction, it would have been 40 weeks, 5 days. However, the midwife booked me in earlier by accident, a week earlier. So I was happy with that, and I still went in. We were there 7 hours. She checked me, I was 2 centimeters, which I assumed was from the stretch and sweep. And she said, I can feel your baby's head, we can probably take you down to birth suite, just break your waters and things will go naturally, which would have been so nice. However, then when she started doing the process to take me downstairs, she was like, oh, you're not supposed to be here till next week, sorry. I thought, seriously? We've been here 7 hours, love. But she was happy to give me another stretch and sweep because it had been a couple of days, and generally the second one works. So the next day was his due date, and it was also our 1-year wedding anniversary. So we went to a museum during the day. I wasn't feeling 100%, but I wanted to try and keep walking and encourage the stretch and sweep to work. So I was walking up all the stairs instead of the lift, and we hadn't eaten lunch. We left the museum at just before 3, and we decided we'd stop at a cafe and have a sandwich, just share a sandwich, because we were going for dinner with my mum and my brother. So we just thought, we'll just have a little something just to top up. So when we got there, they said, sorry, we're not serving. I thought, are you kidding me? Like, it's Sunday afternoon, all the supermarkets close at 4, so we thought, fine, we'll find somewhere else. So as I was walking back to the car, I literally grabbed the door handle and I felt like this huge gush. I didn't hear a pop or feel a pop like a lot of people say, so I wasn't sure. So I said, Darren, I was like, oh, I gotta go back to the toilet. So I sort of started walking back inside and I could feel it all just pouring out. So I sort of looped back around and came back inside, back to the car. And Aaron was there with my waterproof jacket for the seat. I was organised and I did have a towel, but that really didn't do very much. I was also wearing a pad, which just completely soaked through, so I would definitely recommend some sort of plastic situation along with a towel for the possible occasion of having waters break in public. So my main concern was, like, I just didn't want it to be a hemorrhage or something, or a bleed, considering I'd had the stretch and sweep. So I did check and it was just all clear. So we went home. On the way home, I called the maternity triage, and they said that I needed to come in so that they could confirm my waters had broken and just make sure the baby wasn't in any distress. So we came home first so I could change my wet knickers and all sorts. So did that, then went to the hospital, was there for about an hour. She didn't do an internal because she was happy that my waters had broken, and she just said, you know, things will progress. If they didn't, I was to come back at 8 o'clock the following morning, and they would give me some medicine to hurry things along. But yeah, that was pretty much that. And so we left, we came home. At this point, my contractions were like 7 to 10 minutes apart. They were more intense than what I'd had, because I'd had contractions basically from 34 weeks, like full days of contractions, but they just didn't lead anywhere. So they were really painful, but these were just more intense because of the pressure, I think, from the waters being broken. A little whinger. So came home for about an hour, made sure that, hold on. So we came home for about an hour, and then made sure that the car was packed and everything like that. I told my mum, and they're saying, "Are you still coming to the pub for dinner?" I said, "Yes, because I'm still starving." We didn't have anything in the fridge. All the supermarkets. Oh. Are you quite alright? I might need to just go for a little walk. Sorry, guys. My apologies, he was getting a little tired and cranky, so this is the reality. This is no perfect video, I'm sorry. So what was I saying? Yes, we were still planning on going to the pub, so we used that hour to make sure that the car was packed and we had everything that we needed. And I put some paracetamol in my handbag to take to the pub so that I could take it when I was ready, but I really wanted to try and stay as natural as I could for as long as I could so that I could determine how bad it was getting. So we went to the pub, and because I thought this could carry on for hours, like just because my waters are broken doesn't mean it's going to progress quickly. So we went, and at that stage they were about 5 to 7 minutes apart, and they were still okay when I got to the pub, but quite quickly they progressed, and we'd ordered, and it took 40 minutes for my food to come out. Like at 30 minutes I was saying to, you know, Mum and Aaron, please find out how long this is going to be, because every contraction I was just like clenching the edge of the table and trying to breathe through it, because we were in public. I couldn't make like a big scene or a noise or anything. You know, if I was rocking from side to side, people would notice. So I was just trying to sit still and just squeeze the table. So eventually the food came, and the waitress was really nice and funny. She's going, "I can wrap it up if you don't feel very well." And I'm thinking, no, like I just want to eat it and leave. So Aaron had ordered this big roast, and every time I was having a contraction, he'd like stop eating and stare at me. And obviously he was making sure that I was okay and, you know, just ready to leave at a moment's notice. But I was like, keep eating, for God's sake, just keep eating, hurry up. And so scoffed that down in about 5 minutes, and then left pretty much straight away. I left my mum with the bill and I was like, I'm out. So normally you have to call the triage. unit and let them know how you're feeling and how far along you are and if it's okay to come in and blah, blah, blah. And I rang and was just like, I'm on my way. And they're like, oh, but how? And I'm like, no, I'm on my way. And then they kept asking me questions. And I was like, I can't talk to you right now. Like, I'll be there in 10 minutes. So we got there, and the midwife that was admitting us, it was a little bit irritating because she could see that I was in a lot of pain, and I was probably, like, I was having really frequent contractions. They were 3 minutes apart at this stage, and that's what they were when we left the pub. But she spent about half an hour asking me questions. What's your date of birth? What's your full name? You know, how far along are you? Blah, blah, blah. And I was like, can you just hurry up? Like, seriously. So eventually at the end of half an hour, she did an internal and she was like, oh, you're 6 to 7 centimeters. And I was like, thank God. I just cried because I was so pleased. I just didn't want them to say 3 centimeters and then say, sorry, you have to go home. So she said, we'll admit you. My midwife that was going to be like the one who was with me through the birthing, she came to get me, and we walked to the birth suite, which was like down 3 long corridors in public, and I just had to keep stopping and squirming and holding on to the side. And Aaron did try and put a bit of pressure on my back, but I don't really know if that helped. It just kind of distracted me. So we eventually got there, and I started feeling like these like pushing sensation, pushing pains. It was all in my tummy. And I was like, Aaron, you need to go and get her, like this baby's coming. And I'm like trying to pull my undies off while I'm standing on the side holding onto the bed. And she was trying to get some bits ready to give me a blood test and for the gas and air. So she quickly came, she rechecked me. I was 8 centimeters, and that was just pretty much from walking from the admittance to the birth suite. And so she's like, right, you know, what pain relief options do you want? And like I said, I wanted a natural birth. I wanted a pool water birth, but I think because I hadn't had pain relief in so long, well, I hadn't had any pain relief. I forgot to tell you, I left my handbag at home, so I never got to have that paracetamol that I took to the pub. So it wasn't till I got to birth suite that I got some gas and air. So she said, what pain relief do you want? I was like, I want the epidural. And she's going, are you sure? You know, you're nearly there. And I was like, I want the epidural. All I was thinking of is I just wanted relief. It was just so intense, so quickly. So from 3 o'clock when my waters broke, and this was now about 7 o'clock, I was 8 centimeters. So I'm pretty sure if I didn't have the epidural, I would have probably had him within the hour. But just at the time, all I could think about was just having relief. And I don't regret my decision, but I wish I would have been strong enough to have the natural birth. But anyway, maybe next time. So the epidural went in. It took me about 45 minutes to get full relief from it, and towards the end of like feeling the pain, I felt more of that pushing pain. So she checked me again, and I was 9 centimeters, but I had a rim, which I don't really know what that means, but she said it takes about 2 hours to disappear. So she said, we're just gonna sit here for 2 hours, let it disappear, and I'll check you then. Turns out that like feeling of pushing that I need to was actually him turning. He was on my right side, so I think he needed to, like, well, his back was, he was on a bit of an angle, his back was closer to my back, so obviously they want the baby the other way. So that was the feeling, and he was coming down. So at the end of the 2 hours, she checked me again. She said, great, you're 10 centimeters. She said he's really low, like he was right there. So she said, if you feel like you need to push, push, but otherwise they let you sit there for an hour at 10 centimeters with the epidural, just because you don't push as effectively and they don't want you to, you know, waste time and get tired and that. So just to bring the baby down naturally as much as possible. So that's what I did. I didn't feel the sensation to push, but that was purely because my epidural was amazing. I had a really good one. A lot of people don't. I couldn't feel anything. I could move my legs effectively, like reasonably, but I had no pain. So a lot of people need top-ups, or they can still feel pain or whatever. I had to look at the monitor most of the time to feel when I was having a contraction, to to see when I was having a contraction. So at the end of the hour, she said, we'll start pushing. And that was the weird part, because she was like counting down. So she was like, in 5 minutes, we'll start pushing. And I was thinking, okay, in 5 minutes, I will start pushing out my baby. It was just a weird concept to be counting down to when I was gonna be able to meet him. So it took me 1 hour and 15 minutes to push him. Normally they only like you to push for 1 hour with an epidural, but because I was effectively pushing and he was nearly out, they were happy to let me continue. So I was pleased about that. And I did say to her, let me know when I need to just pant, because I didn't want to tear. And from about that much of his head showing to the next contraction, he was out. And I got about 4 pushes per contraction. So she's going, okay, don't push, just pant. And I didn't think I was pushing at all. And then all of a sudden she was like, pick up your baby. And I was like, the last time you told me was like that much of his head was showing. How is he out? Anyway, I picked him up, didn't even look or care what sex he was. I just had him on my chest. And it wasn't until 5 minutes later that Aaron and I were both like, oh, what is he? Like, well, obviously it's a he now, but we had a look, it was boy. And I said to the midwife, let me know when I need to push for the placenta. So this is when sort of the trouble started. And she said, do not push, like at all. And I said, okay, why? So she said, just let me do it. And I thought, all right, no worries. So I kind of thought that was a bit weird. And anyway, the placenta came. I think she just gave it a bit of a tug and she was pushing on my stomach a bit. And she checked it, it was all fine. And before all the birth, we'd had some conversations during that 2 hours, and I knew that if I had any little tears, she would stitch them herself. So they're all trained here to do that, and she was great. She was really experienced. And so she said to me, after the placenta was checked, I need to go and get a doctor because you have a few tears. And I thought, oh, great. That does not sound good. So I had 2 doctors come in and they thought that I had a 3rd degree tear which goes through my rectum. So I had fingers in my bottom checking. Luckily enough, it wasn't. It was a 2nd degree tear, which still isn't nice at all. So that included the muscle. It was quite long. And then I had 2 internal vaginal tears. So I lost 200 mils during the birth, which was fine. And then I lost 800 mils of blood just from the tears. So that should tell you that they were reasonable size. It took them about 1 hour to stitch me, and then at the end of the hour, I was feeling pretty rotten anyway from the blood loss, but at the end of the hour I was like, my ears were ringing, I was starting to feel dizzy. So I was saying to my midwife, I'm like, I'm gonna faint. She's like, no, you're all right. And next thing I woke up with all these people around me, and I could see Aaron standing in the corner holding him. Just like this look of panic, like my wife's gonna die face. But I did tell him, things go wrong, people come in, they have, these things in place so that they can fix it before anything goes wrong. So it always looks worse than it is. Just get out of the way, stand in the corner, it'll be fine. So I ended up having a seizure and fainting, which was just purely from the blood loss, I think. And I was fine overall. They gave me 4 litres of saline. Oh, sorry. I did not have any blood transfusion. So once I was starting to feel a little bit better with that, they said, let's get some food into you. So I had some toast and some juice. And then within 5 minutes, I spent the next hour vomiting. So things were looking super. But he was good. He weighed 7.3 pounds in the end, so he was not measuring what they thought he would be. So I'm glad that we didn't end up having that induction. Just shows you babies will come when they're ready. And so he was born at 3 a.m. in the end, and I was there until 8 a.m. in the delivery room, still just getting stitched and sorted until I was stable, and then I went up to the room. So I'm really sorry, my camera stopped recording. Again, it must be on a timer or something, I apologise. So sorry, I was there from 3 till 8, and then I went up to the room and I was thinking like I'll go and have a wee, but I was a bit scared because of the stitches. I didn't want it to sting, but it didn't. I had a wee, and like I felt like something was like in my way between my legs, and so I've like, you know, gone over this flabby tummy and had a look, and it looked like all my insides were outside. It was revolting. It was swollen, it was red, it was bruised. You couldn't see what was what, and I was like, I'm never gonna be the same again. So it was pretty uncomfortable for a week, particularly the first 2 days, and like each day the swelling was going down. By the end of the first week, like I was much better. I could sit, you know, reasonably comfortable. To be honest, it probably took me until like the end of 3 weeks to feel pretty normal, and he's now 12 weeks and things have only just completely healed and, you know, pretty much back to normal now. But the first week was the worst, and then after that it's just a little bit sore, but manageable. And, you know, 4 days after he was born, I walked from here down to our local pub. Yes, it was a slow walk, but it doesn't stop you doing anything. It was really just the first 2 days that Aaron had to pass him to me for feeding, and then I had to like take my time sitting down and getting up, and that. So, I mean, that was it really. I don't really know what else to tell you. That's my birth story. Sorry I don't have any footage. I'm disappointed I don't have footage. I would have liked to watch that. Probably not yet, but somewhere down the track when I'd come to terms with it. But he's here, he's safe, he's healthy, I'm healthy. I've had no post-infections. I was very careful about cleaning, and yeah. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and let me know if you have any questions or share with me your own birth story. And thanks for watching. Talk to you next time.